In 1922, Western civilization was reeling from the mechanized slaughter of the First World War. The comforting 19th century narratives of steady human progress and romanticism had been reduced to ash. The American expatriate poet T.S. Eliot was dealing with his own psychological fallout. Exhausted by a miserable marriage and a grueling job evaluating balance sheets at a London bank, he suffered a nervous breakdown and was sent to a Swiss sanitarium to recover. While there, he finalized a manuscript that aggressively refused to behave like a normal poem. Instead of a single narrator or a clear plot, it violently shifted gears without warning, jumping from Greek myth to working-class pub gossip, switching between foreign languages, and quoting popular ragtime music. This structural chaos was intentional. Eliot recognized that a fractured post-war reality could no longer be contained in neat rhyming verses. To accurately describe a broken world, the poetry itself had to be broken. The poem opens by immediately inverting the natural order. For a traumatized population, winter provides a comfortable, numb blanket. Spring is the cruelest month because it forces the dead land and the deadened survivors to wake up and feel again. Eliot places this numbness directly on the streets of modern London. He watches a crowd of commuters flowing over London Bridge and describes them with a direct quote from Dante's Inferno. The city's inhabitants are trapped in a living death, sleepwalking through hollow daily routines. The camera of the poem then pans off the crowded streets and into the private spaces of the city, moving from public despair to the complete collapse of intimate human connection. We find ourselves in an intensely opulent room, dripping with perfumes and jewels reminiscent of Cleopatra. Yet the woman inside is crippled by anxiety. Her husband cannot or will not communicate with her, leaving her trapped in a luxurious, silent prison. The scene then cuts abruptly to a gritty East End pub. Here, working-class women casually discuss infidelity, bad teeth, and the pills one took to induce a miscarriage. By placing these two scenes side by side, Eliot makes his point clear. Whether you sit on a patterned silk sofa or a wooden pub stool, post-war existence is universally loveless and emotionally barren. The decay spreads to history itself in the third section. Eliot conjures the River Thames, but strips away the elegant nymphs and summer weddings of classic English literature. Instead, we see the modern, industrialized riverbanks, littered with empty bottles and discarded silk handkerchiefs. To witness this degradation, Eliot calls upon Tiresias, the blind prophet of ancient Greek myth. Tiresias watches a thoroughly modern, profoundly depressing romantic encounter unfold. A typist and an arrogant clerk engage in an affair so devoid of passion it reads like an administrative transaction. When he leaves, she simply paces about her room and puts a record on the gramophone, her movements as automatic as the machinery she operates all day. Suddenly, the fourth section plunges us underwater to watch a Phoenician sailor quietly drown in a dark whirlpool. This brief, stark image acts as a brutal palate cleanser. It warns the reader that chasing superficial desires and worldly profits means absolutely nothing when the grim cycle of human mortality comes to collect. Left with this chilling reality, the final section of the poem strands us in an arid, rocky desert. The landscape is bone dry, but there is the distant sound of thunder. It builds tension throughout the text, promising the possibility of rain that might finally wash away the decay and offer the wasteland some spiritual relief. To answer the thunder, Eliot abandons Western thought. He pulls directly from the ancient Hindu texts of the Upanishads, introducing 3 distinct Sanskrit commands. Translated, the thunder demands that humanity observe 3 virtues: to give, to sympathize, and to control. He places the Buddha right next to St. Augustine. By aggressively forcing these Eastern and Western religious concepts together, Eliot displays a frantic, desperate search to find any philosophical cure for Europe's crippling disillusionment. The poem leaves us with its final image, a narrator sitting on the shore of an arid sea with a fishing pole. Surveying the wreckage behind him, he asks a simple question: "Shall I at least set my lands in order?" But he takes no actual action. Instead of a neat, satisfying resolution, the verse entirely collapses into a rapid-fire flurry of fragmented literary quotes before ending on a repetitive chant for peace. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Eliot fiercely rejected the idea that he had written the disillusionment of an entire generation, but his audience claimed him anyway, precisely because he had so accurately captured the collective vertigo of a society that felt it had lost the plot of its own civilization. The Wasteland survives as a modernist masterpiece because it refuses to lie. It proves that when a world shatters, art must evolve to reflect the cracks, preserving the deepest anxieties of the 20th century in a handful of dust.